Hello, Wastelanders, and welcome to the Holotapes weekly podcast. I am your host, Monte, and this is the Fallout 4 Extravaganza special, which has been talked about for many days now. The hype has been real. So, without further ado, I'm your host, Monte. This is my co-host, Jordan.
Hey.
And this is my other co-host, who's also named Jordan. Say hi, Jordan.
Hi.
Thank you. And this is our fucking, oh shit, I already cursed. This is our guest, CJ. Hi.
Hi.
Alright, so now, in case you haven't picked up on it, every podcast with a 4 in it will be all about Fallout 4. That's all we're going to talk about is Fallout 4, Fallout 4, Fallout 4. But before we get started, our boy Jordan's going to give us our weekly dollar.
And one other thing, Monty, we have two things that I need to share with you today. Number one is, hey, don't skip this part. Listen to me right now. It takes 1 second. Look down in the description of the video that you're watching right now or listening to. There's a poll. Take it. It takes not even 5 minutes. Take it for us. It'll help us get better, and it'll help you get better content. That's all I'm saying. The second thing that I want to tell you, as always, our weekly dollar for this week is going to be renewable energy research. Find a charity that helps to increase funding for renewable energy resources, renewable energy, and it's good stuff. We don't want our dependence on oil and coal to be passed down to our kids. So let's move past that. Let's do it. Monty, handing it back to you. Let's roll.
All right, thanks, Jordan. Now, before we really dig our teeth into the juicy and rare steak that is Fallout 4 rumors and speculation, I want to summarize very briefly everything we know about Fallout 4 right now, which isn't very much, but hey, we'll start from the beginning. Bethesda Softworks initially licensed the right to make 3 Fallout games for Interplay Entertainment: Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Fallout 5 back in 2004. That's when development of Bethesda Game Studios' Fallout 3 began. A few years later, Interplay sold the Fallout IP to Bethesda since they were in a horrible financial situation, but they retained the rights to make a Fallout MMO and sell the original Fallout games. But a few years after that, with very little progress made in the Fallout MMO, Bethesda took them to court and won the rights to make a Fallout MMO, which hopefully they never fucking do because it's a horrible fucking idea, but that's not the point. Fallout 3 then released, of course, in 2008 to huge universal acclaim, becoming one of the greatest games of the last generation of consoles. After Fallout 3 and its DLC release, Bethesda shifted to working full development on their next game, which was The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, and we know that by 2010, Bethesda Game Studios had 2 games in development. One was almost finished, which was Skyrim, and the other was still in pre-production, which hopefully is Fallout 4. Then after Skyrim released in 2011, and all its DLC was released, in April 2013, Bethesda Game Studios announced that they were moving on to their next big adventure, which meant that full development of Fallout 4 had began. Since and even before then, there's been an almost endless string of rumors and hoaxes, starting with Eric Todd Dellums, the voice of Three Dog in Fallout 3, sending out a series of tweets teasing that, quotation, "There may be more of the dog coming. Stay tuned." Later, he then gave a tweet that said that Bethesda gave him permission to tweet that. And then we got all the rumors about Fallout 4 being in Boston, such as a post that a student at MIT saw Bethesda employees scouting the area around there, which wasn't proven to be false, I believe. And another post shortly after claiming that this dude knew Fallout 4 plot details and stuff, which was proven to be false. And then, of course, there was the infamous Survivor 2299 hoax. Then we got the Kotaku leaks, which many believe to be fake because of Kotaku's bad credibility. And there's been a ton more since then that I'm probably forgetting. But then after months of quiet, Bethesda announced a few weeks back that they will be hosting an E3 press conference, which is actually a week before the actual convention. They're going first out of everyone, so they're definitely trying to make a statement here. So I think we'll definitely see Fallout 4 there, but we'll just have to wait and see to make sure. So am I forgetting anything, guys?
No, I think you're good, man.
All right, good. So after that, now that that long diatribe is over, we're going to move on to our very first segment. Like I said, Boston is the location many, including myself, are expecting for the next Fallout game. I think it's a great location, but that's another topic. So besides Boston, guys, what would be your dream location for Fallout 4? Jordan, go.
I'm thinking I really want to see them move towards the Midlands. We've seen a lot of things having to do with people living on the water. We've seen New Vegas is directly located next to Lake Mead. We've seen the NCR base themselves right on the coast in a few of their cities and things like that. Yeah. I want to see what's going on in the dead center of the country where there's no real access to fresh water. I want to see how that's playing out.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Miss Jordan?
I want to go the absolute other way and see either A, Hawaii, or B, the Great Lakes region.
Oh, man. Aloha.
Well, okay,
Fucking
so you have
aloha.
to think that even if there was an atomic bomb in one situation is going to mess up, like, the affecting volcanoes, and earthquakes and all of that jazz for Hawaii. And then the Great Lakes region, yeah, it's just that nothing's been done there really since Tactics. And so, and that's only semi-canon.
Yeah, and the Great Lakes may not even exist anymore. We know the bombs, it could cause a lot of change in the geography and stuff.
Yeah. Right, and it could even be an iRobot kind of situation where, if you remember right, I think it was Lake Michigan was like completely filled with trash.
Yeah.
And, like, used as storage.
I mean, it's not like that's not already happening right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course. So, CJ, what's your dream location for Fallout 4?
Florida.
Florida, why?
Just, there's a lot of opportunities there, I guess.
Gatormen?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Miami, something nice like that.
Shout out to all the Florida Gators out there. My Florida Gator fans, holla.
Yeah, and I think that'd also be a great location. We know when Obsidian was asked where they'd like to see in their next Fallout take place, that was one of the locations they said. They said, I'm pretty sure Florida and New Orleans were the two locations they wanted to see.
Oh, yeah, New Orleans would be fucking terrifying.
New Orleans would be pretty terrifying. And I think that there was actually, at one point, there was a rumor that was going around that it was in New Orleans. And that was some post on Reddit that someone said they had insider information.
Which was probably bullshit.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, random people on the internet aren't to be trusted.
I mean, fucking Mardi Gras ghouls. I mean, what's not to like about that? I mean...
Yeah. Hurricanes coming and wiping out your entire settlement, if hurricanes even still exist.
And again, if New Orleans even still exists, who knows? It could have been wiped out by water.
That's a good point.
But personally, I would love to see a Fallout in Chicago. I mean, I think like a gangster mafia theme going on in Chicago with, like, different factions, because the history Chicago has with that, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, Al Capone and shit like that. And we could also see our favorite frenemies, the Enclave and Brotherhood again.
No.
Everyone wants to see them, right?
No.
I mean, they are sort of staples of the series, and
definitely.
As much as we hate to have them in every game, they are sort of the game,
Yeah, definitely.
As someone who lives in Chicago, I could not think of a more unfitting place for the next installment than Chicago.
Why is that?
Because it'll just be a direct copy from 3. It's not what... I don't think people want to go from 3 to 4 and have the same enemies and the same heroes from the previous game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't want it to be Fallout 4's location per se, but I want to see Fallout go there eventually. Like, because I agree. I mean, seeing Fallout 4 just having the Brotherhood and Enclave fighting again, that'd be just kind of like, really? That's all we come up with?
Yeah, and if we do go to Chicago, we have to see the Enclave base there. I mean, that would be something that we would have to have. Not necessarily. I mean, the Brotherhood could have been kicked out of that area as we know it, but we do know that the Enclave had a very, very big stronghold there.
Yeah, and that stuff was mentioned in Tactics, so I mean, they could pick and choose what they want to be canon and whatnot. So
yeah.
So moving on to our next segment, this one's called Hopes and Nopes, which is exactly what it sounds like. We're each going to name a few things that we want to see or hope to see in Fallout 4, followed by a few things that we hope to God we don't see in Fallout 4. So I'll start it off.
No,
I'll start it off.
You, Monte.
Or you can start it off. That's fine. Fucking bullying me around, Jordan. It's okay.
Hey, that's my job. No, the two things that we absolutely don't want to see are any type of vehicles and multiplayer. Fuck that shit.
Agreed with the multiplayer, not the vehicles.
Yeah, I don't really think anyone wants to see a multiplayer Fallout game.
God, no.
Actually, I guess we should clarify. We don't want multiplayer in our single-player storyline.
I don't want it, period.
Yeah, I don't want a period either, to be honest.
I think that if they do a good enough job with the multiplayer as an offshoot from the main game, and they don't lose focus on the main game, and make it so that way the multiplayer is just like some small little thing, then it might be okay. But the second that they start taking resources from the main game to put into the multiplayer, that's when we have a problem.
That's what it is, though. It costs a lot of money for that to happen with networking and AI and just making sure that servers are paid for properly. That costs a lot of money.
Yeah, well, I don't think the problem with multiplayer would be that because it doesn't have the resources to do it. I mean, they have a ton of resources. If they wanted to do it, they could do it. But Todd Howard's been on the record as saying, he doesn't believe that multiplayer belongs in his games and that don't expect it from any of his games. So we probably won't see it. But also, it just doesn't fit. Yeah, and Pete Hines has said it. But also, it just doesn't fit with Fallout. With a post-apocalyptic wasteland like Fallout, you just think, it's lonely and bleak and dark. If you had a bunch of people just, roaming around and, just, shooting and shit, it would just take away from that feel, I think.
Yeah. Here's another thing that I personally feel I don't want in the next game. I don't want to feel like a cowboy anymore.
Yeah.
as much as I enjoyed New Vegas, it was kind of off the wall from the normal Fallout, and I get it because New Vegas is basically a spin-off of the game. It's a branch off. It's not part of the main series. So the fact that they went a little off the wall is good. But
Yeah.
I want to go back to I want to feel like it's Fallout again.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, that's a separate topic. I mean, because New Vegas kind of had like a crisis identity with that. I mean, part of it was like a cowboy game, and part of it was, just like a Vegas game. But Girl Jordan, what do you think?
I would like to not see the NCR again. Unpopular opinion. I don't want to be back in California. I don't want to be in the Mojave. I don't want to be anywhere in the West.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's probably all settled.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't think it's all settled. I think that's a long shot, but we definitely have had a lot of content there.
I mean, well, I feel that any West Coast idea would have to include the NCR now at this point because they're just so big.
Well,
I'm
actually, you know what?
a fan of Seattle, but I feel like they're starting to reach up into Washington, so they'd probably see them there. And
they could
be.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I would be willing to see it in Alaska or like Alaska, that California, or not Californian, Canadian coast. I don't know why I mix those up. And then the top part of Washington. But
can we get a Fallout Twilight?
Canada.
Can we get a Fallout Twilight?
Yeah, basically the Twilight section. That's where I want it.
In the middle of nowhere.
It's got to be in the West.
Ugh.
I mean, there can be vampires, though.
There can be vampires, yes. I think it's a really interesting thing to think about. When we talk about the NCR, we really have to think about how far are they going to reach by the time that we hit the next game. And I think that's a really big issue that comes up because, like you said, a lot of people are kind of getting tired of the NCR. We've seen them 3 times across games now. Well, not so much in Fallout 1, but we saw the beginnings of them. And I think that they're becoming sort of like the Brotherhood and the Enclave, where we've seen enough of them. We want to kind of move on. And so I think that Bethesda does a really good job of touching on subjects that they really haven't in the past. They did a great job with Skyrim, with touching on the Dragonborn and talking about Skyrim and more of the background of the Nords, which is something that they really hadn't done in the series. And in Oblivion, they did a really good job of showing off what the capital of the Empire was like and things like that. And it was great. So I think that we really don't have much to worry about with Bethesda when it comes to making things stale.
I hope their writing could use some work.
That's sort of a matter of personal opinion. And I think that a lot of times Bethesda does mechanics really well. And I think that when you do mechanics as well as Bethesda does, and we've seen it across all of their games, that story can kind of take a back seat in some cases. Not all the way, because we still want some story, but it doesn't have to be as good as long as the gameplay is good,
I demand a better story.
You demand a better story.
That's part of my hopes and hopes.
Okay.
One hope, I want better mechanics, so no more being a god by level 30. I don't want to be able to be a master of everything. I want to be able to specialize in certain things and not be a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
And I want a great story.
Yeah, I mean, you guys got a lot of mine. I mean, my hopes would be that there's a bigger map, filled with a lot more stuff, kind of like Skyrim, except hopefully bigger in Skyrim. And I also want, improvements on, special and stuff and, the RPG mechanics and also, the shooting mechanics because, I mean, Fallout 3 shooting mechanics were just god-awful. I mean, you couldn't play the game without using bats pretty much.
I disagree. I played
only if you're a noob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a noob, but, I mean, it just wasn't friendly,
It wasn't. I'll agree with that. And I think that has somewhat to do with them using the Havoc engine for that sort of thing. And the Havoc engine uses a lot of things that make Fallout very, very interesting by being able to move like pool ball, like being able to play pool in the game and things like that, where the physics are very realistic, but it can also make bullet physics very iffy because things have a tendency to jump around and iron sights don't quite line up, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, New Vegas was a little better since they added, the actually looking down the sights and stuff, but
yeah, I agree.
There's still a lot more room for improvement. I mean, it doesn't have to be like Call of Duty or Halo or anything like that, just, just better.
Yeah, and not to get too far off topic before we move on, but I do want to mention your map observation that you wanted something like Skyrim but bigger. We've actually seen that Bethesda is slowly getting smaller and smaller in their maps.
Yeah, that's true.
If we look
they're getting smaller and adding more content in the maps.
This is true, and I think that's what we're going to continue to see an expansion of in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
It may even be smaller than the map of Fallout 3, but it's going to have more stuff packed into it.
But I also think with the new generation of consoles that will allow for more content and bigger maps.
Absolutely.
You won't have to choose one or the other, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and you're no longer bound by discs either. It no longer has to be that everything has to fit on a disc. You can now do digital download, and you can have 100 gig game with no problems.
Yeah, and a couple of my nopes would be, this one is very controversial. It was part of the Kotaku leaks that I talked about. A voice protagonist. I pray to God that doesn't happen.
I agree.
Me too.
I mean, I thought about it for a while, but it just wouldn't fit Fallout at all. It's just not a good idea.
I agree. Here's my thing, though. Who is going to be narrating the Fallout 4? Because Ron Perlman has already stated in a tweet that he is not voicing the narrator.
That might be more just, I mean, maybe he's hiding
in the collector's edition. All right, so it kind of to further this, in the collector's edition of 3, they have that making of DVD. And they go through a bunch of sections, and it shows the design choices and whatever came into whatever. And there's a part where it's all audio, and they're talking to who's President Eden? Malcolm McDowell. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're showing him, and he's like, I'm having so much fun, and we're doing a voice recording today. And they show you the script, and it said May 8th of 2008, and the lines that he's doing is part of the radio. And if you're making that big of a character do his lines only a couple months away from release, and he's President Eden is a big character. It made me think that you could probably do runs and probably maybe wake up, go to the studio, and be done by lunch.
Yeah.
So why have?
That's true, because you don't have to match up their voices to a character. That makes sense.
Right.
So that means they, for all we know, they could be doing voice acting right now. So that's why Ron Perlman didn't know anything back when he sent that tweet out. And, Eric Todd Dellums, doesn't know anything, but they could be doing it right now. Or they haven't even started it yet.
I agree.
I don't, if I was in their position, because Ron Perlman doesn't, if push came to, I don't really trust Ron Perlman. He seems like the type of dude who would say something if a lot of people ask, because he would get too annoyed. So why even take the chance of having it leak? At the end of the day, if Ron Perlman's going to have a job, regardless of whether they hire him again or not. So I wouldn't even take the risk of letting him be a possible leak.
Yeah,
that's true.
But then again, Eric Todd Dellums probably won't have a job if he's not in, Fallout 4. So that's a much more bigger deal to him.
Yeah, he's been teasing though. He's been
teasing since 2012.
Yeah.
So obviously they told him something.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's recorded or anything.
He was probably in discussion to get the contract settled out.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that they do contract stuff far before that.
Yeah. And if they got a returning character from an older game, then I guess they'd tell him, more in advance as to, make the character, around him still. If that makes any sense. I don't think it did.
Yeah, it does.
All right, well, that was a good discussion, but we're going to move on to our next segment here. And this one is predictions. We're going to make some bold predictions about Fallout 4, and we're going to wait about we're going to wait a few months and see if they're true. So I'll start out. My first bold prediction is that Fallout 4 will be announced at E3 with an October release.
I could believe it, because Bethesda has stated in the past that they want to start making the announcement in a shorter time period before release. So I could see that happening. I think that October is a little over the top. I was thinking.
I just say October because that's when the Great War is, and that's where they tried to get Fallout 3 released. I'm gonna raise you one
and guess October 26th.
Yeah, if they can, I feel like they'll try to get as close to that date as they can.
It might be nice for the fans, but at the exact same time, October isn't really known as being a gaming month. And my guess would be a holiday release or nearby, so that way they can get a lot of the sales from Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever else.
Well, I don't think that exactly applies to, a Bethesda game. No matter when they release it, they're going to get a ton of sales.
But,
and of course, Skyrim released, like in November, I think. So they definitely benefited off that. So who knows?
But that's what I'm saying is I'm thinking a little further out. I think that October is probably a good guess, but I'm going to guess maybe a month or two out from that.
But I mean, like you said, which is very important, Todd Howard said in a recent interview that he doesn't want information about his next game to be dribbled out like Skyrim over like 11, 12 months. So I mean, maybe 3 months is a little, too risque, but I think maybe a early spring release or late holiday release, I think that will definitely happen, if it's announced at E3, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to say that my big prediction is that the FPS part of Fallout is going to be vastly improved. I'm not putting it on the level of Call of Duty with their let's be honest, Call of Duty has fairly good FPS mechanics. They're very good at knowing how long weapons need to take to reload and things like that. And, people complain because bullets don't really drop and things like that. It's not realistic. But it's very, very good for a video game. And I'm not going to say that Fallout's going to reach that level, but they're definitely going to be coming closer to that sort of perfect area for a video game FPS style.
Yeah. And I mean, the Call of Duty style of FPS mechanics would probably be better suited for Fallout than, say, Battlefield with, super realistic bullet drop and everything. Because that's not what Fallout's ever been really about.
No, it's definitely been way more focused on the sort of fun part of everything.
Yeah, and like I said though, I hope they focus more on the RPG side of it than the FPS side of it, personally.
Oh, I think that in any case they're going to work on the RPG side. I think that that's the number one thing because they learned a lot from what people said about 3 and about New Vegas. And again, this is only going to be Bethesda's second try at a Fallout game. But I think that we're going to see improvements in both, definitely.
Yeah. So, Jordan B, what is your bold prediction?
Okay, so here are my bold predictions. 1, there's going to be some horrible Lovecraftian horror monster in it somewhere.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Which is going to suck.
Shout out to the Dunwich building.
Yep.
Yeah, God, I hate... Oh, okay. It's going to be announced at E3. There's no way they're not going to.
Yep.
Probably not going to have as much robots in it as everyone thinks.
Ooh,
but
are you saying it's not going to be in Boston?
Is
that what you're predicting?
Say it's not going to be in Boston.
Oh boy, that's bold.
It might be in Boston, but I don't think it'll have to do as much with the Institute as you all are thinking.
Oh, well, I'm just going to get right into my next prediction then. My next prediction is that Fallout 4 will be set in Boston, and the player character will be an android. How about that? So it'll have all to do with robots in the Institute. How about that?
I disagree.
You know what, Monte? Fight
Well, how can you disagree? It's a prediction.
But I disagree. I think that this is the perfect time for them to introduce playable races, and that Android may be one of them, but I don't think that they're going to force you to be an Android.
I hate you all.
Well, I mean, they force you to be a human in Fallout 3, so why not?
Why do you hate us, CJ?
Because no, you should start off being. If anything, it should be tied to a quest.
Well, I mean, remember, the androids in Fallout are basically humans. There's no visible difference whatsoever. So it's not like it'd be that big of a difference. I think it would just help with the story and make a compelling story. Because if you're an android and say the Institute's really mistreating androids, wouldn't that give you more incentive to help them?
Yeah, but I mean, don't you want to? I mean, maybe that's just me because I just want a neutral story. But I feel that automatically ties you to the railroad.
No, well, I mean, it would push you in that way, but hopefully there would be choices that you could still, disobey, your android friends or whatever and join the Institute. But that's another.
Then you're a dick.
Yeah, then you're a dick, and the game makes you feel like an asshat. So.
Which it shouldn't do.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it did a horrible job of that in Fallout 3.
Yeah.
And the last bold prediction I have, it's going to knock your socks off. I'm going to bet right now, all the bottle caps in my pocket, that Fallout 4 will have the best story of every Fallout game so far. How do you like that?
All at one.
Nah, Bethesda Game Studios, they're cooking up a masterpiece right now as we're speaking. They're cooking it up. Emil Pagularo, he's going to be the next free writer.
Okay. I'll just say okay.
Okay, good.
When you come up with an antagonist like the Master, you let me know. When Bethesda creates a compelling villain like the Master.
True. I mean, they'd have a lot to overcome if they wanted to make the greatest story ever. But I think they can do it. I have a lot of trust in them for no reason because
I guess we'll see. I'm less concerned with having a good story as having an engaging one.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to move on to some fan questions, everybody's favorite segment. So the first question comes courtesy of at FG Adam Stovall, or just Adam Stovall on Twitter. He says, I know we are all looking forward to Fallout 4, but what if they remade Fallout 1 and 2 for the next two?
Like in the style of 3 in New Vegas?
No, well, what I think he means, yeah, definitely. That's what he means.
No, don't mess with perfection.
Yeah.
I can see it happening, but I don't think that it would be good for sales.
I would like to see it released like that. Like, if they create a Fallout 4 as its own individual story, and then, like, as a collector's package. But that would be ridiculous.
That would be interesting.
Can you imagine if that's what they announced? Not only are you getting Fallout 4, but you're getting a completely redone Fallout 1 and 2 in the new engine.
Yeah,
you know what? It would totally be worth it, the wait. Like, they could take as much time as they wanted at that point.
Yeah. Well, how I feel about this is that before I played the originals, I wanted, them to remake them in the new style, because I'm like, oh, I can't get into that top-down shit. That's just, that's old school. But then I actually played them, and I'm like, wow, these are really good. And so I don't think they need to be touched at all. So I hope they don't do that anytime soon.
I guess we'll just have to see on that one.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. So our next question comes from Timmy Hill at TimmyHill46. He asks us, can you please discuss and explain how Fallout canon is selected and by whom, i.e. the fans, Bethesda, etc.?
Let me go ahead and answer that question. It's done by whoever owns the rights.
Yeah.
And in this case, that would be Bethesda. Not even Bethesda, but ZeniMax, Bethesda's parent company.
Yeah. So it used to be Interplay, now it's Bethesda. They can take it wherever they want to, and they can pick and choose what they want to be canon and what they don't want to be canon, etc. So I mean, that's basically... Go ahead.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the number one thing that drives what canon is sales.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the honest truth.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe Mothership Zeta won't be canon because I feel like that got the worst response out of all the DLCs. Mm-hmm. But we'll just have to wait and see about that. So that's basically that question answered in a nutshell. So now for our next question, it comes courtesy of our good friend Gerald Camp at NCR Ambassador. And he actually asked a serious question this week. How about that?
Weird.
Yeah. He asked us, do you prefer... Yeah, he's definitely losing his touch. I mean, come on, Jordan. Gerald. Freaking G and J sounds mixing together there. Oh my god.
What was his question on?
Alright, his question was, do you prefer a set background like Fallout 3 or an undefined one like New Vegas? And I didn't know what he meant at first. I thought he was talking about like the stars in the sky or some shit. But what he means is that do you want like the story to be about the courier who didn't have much of a background, or like similar to the Lone Wanderers in Fallout 3 where, you have your dad, you grew up in a vault, blah 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 blah.
I prefer undefined. It makes the RPG part of RPG a lot more interesting, because I feel like the only thing that you could really do in Fallout 3 to create your character was say, this is my character's personality.
Yeah. What about you, Miss Jordan?
Oh, okay. So unless it's a really kick-ass backstory, it's probably better undefined. Like, I mean, if you're waking up from a cryogenic sleep before the war, and you've woken to this. Yeah, I know, right? That's the best idea of any leaks. That would be cool. But also, I agree with Jordan that the RPG part of it is easier when you don't have that.
Yeah. And I'm kind of on the fence with this one, too. I think that, if it's undefined, it's better RPG mechanics. You get more, freedom with your character. You can pretty much create his own backstory. But I think the benefit of having a more defined character is that you can make a more compelling story and make you, feel more with, your character and, his relatives and friends and such. But, CJ, what do you think?
I'm going to probably just go with undefined, but I can understand, like, I wouldn't be mad either way, I guess, because Bethesda, I think that growing up in the Vault was probably one of the best ways to introduce a player to the game that I've ever seen, just because it makes you really care about certain I mean, some people like to make the argument that, like, it's only 10 minutes, so it doesn't care, but I actually ended up caring about Amada and her dad, even though he was kind of a prick, and my father. But so I would trust Bethesda to do it, and I mean, I'm kind of indifferent, but I'd prefer if I was allowed to make my own backstory.
Yeah, I mean, and you also got to remember that Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, you had a pretty defined backstory. I mean, you grew up in a vault, you had to, save them from doom, and then in Fallout 2, you left the vault, and,
right.
Yeah. So that's a good question, Gerald. Good job. So the next question, I can't really remember what the exact question was because he asked it weeks ago, and I was going to answer it on a podcast, like for 3 weeks straight, but I kept forgetting. But it's from Christopher Carter at the Sarge19 on Twitter, and we were talking about, how underused radiation is in the Fallout games. Like, the only thing is that you get sick and, you have a Geiger counter. Like, couldn't they do more to make radiation an integral part of the game.
Absolutely, and I think that we're absolutely going to see that now that we have upgraded hard drives, we have upgraded drivers, we have upgraded consoles. And let's be honest, as much as people want to say PC elitism exists, when we get a new generation of consoles, companies are more likely to make games that are also better on PC.
Yeah.
So what I think is going to happen is that because we have better hardware in the console versions where Bethesda makes a lot of money, we will definitely be seeing an increase in the use of things like weather and particle effects, even more in-depth mechanics that could really change the way the radiation works, including having infected limbs or specifically infected parts of the body that are caused by radiation and things like that.
Man, could you imagine if like a third arm just started growing out of your chest while you're playing the game because you got too much radiation?
No, Monte, don't say shit like that.
I can't get that one picture out of my head from Fallout 3. I forget what it was from, but
from the goat test.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not talking like that, but hopefully they add, different sicknesses and diseases and such, kind of like Skyrim did, but hopefully, improve on it more.
Yeah.
So CJ, what do you think about the underuse of radiation?
I'd like to, I don't know. I think they should make it more into the story too. I want to see people that are mutating, but not necessarily ghouls, or I'd like to see someone in between.
Oh yeah, me too.
Just the process of someone turning into a ghoul, because obviously, like Jordan said,
this is something that we talked about before, where we've never seen anyone who was in the in-between stages.
Yeah, Moira went straight from human to ghoul and
immediately.
She went from 0 to 100 real quick.
I was about to say it. You stole it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe your skin just starts turning green or something. I'm not sure what the early stages really.
Just peeling skin, something like that. Maybe your face starts to lose color or something and become pale, darker, considering you're losing.
I mean, you probably wouldn't go full on ghoul. You probably just die first, but I mean, that'd still be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the other things that isn't really mentioned, but radiation affects all life forms, including bacteria and viruses. And I think that Skyrim and Oblivion did a really interesting thing with diseases being a mechanic in the game, and I really hope that some of that kind of mechanic moves over into Fallout 4.
Yeah, and I'm sure it will. I mean, Bethesda would be stupid not to, take things that Obsidian did better with Fallout New Vegas and take things that they did better with Skyrim and, just try to make the greatest game they can make.
Absolutely, and I think that they've shown at every turn that that's exactly what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have good faith in Todd Howard, right? I mean, he's like a god, right?
I have faith in the dev team.
Yeah, dev team. But Todd Howard gets all the credit because,
whatever.
God Howard. So there you go.
Dude.
Yeah. So there you go, Christopher Carter. Finally got to your question. You're motherfucking welcome. So now on to our next question. This is from Was Fallout 4 announced at FO4 announcement on Twitter. He asked, what is some lore that hasn't been touched on that you'd like to see expanded on in Fallout 4?
Maybe some androids,
definitely some androids. But maybe how about different parts of the world, different factions that we don't know much about? I mean, what do you guys think?
I'd love to know what's going on with the rest of the world, but not to the point that we would go there.
Yeah.
Like some asshole washes up from Cuba, kind of, and tells about Cuba.
Well, that'd be a long wash up, wouldn't it?
I mean, not really.
People do it.
Yeah, people do it now, but I think that it's not going to be more of that. I think it's more going to be along the lines of we're going to find some sort of computer connectivity between countries, and that the world leaders were still communicating in some way, and we'll find out more about other countries just from communications and data that we've picked up from satellites that are still running and things like that.
Yeah, and I mean maybe we'll even see a DLC in some other country or something.
Yeah.
But
and honestly, I'd love to see more pre-war stuff.
Pre-war stuff being
I need more background on pre-war.
So you just want to see what more of the culture was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think
so fascinating.
Yeah, that's why I think Tranquility Lane from Fallout 3 was so great. For the first time ever in Fallout, you actually got to see what it was like to live in a pre-war neighborhood for a little bit, even though it was run by a psychotic little girl and all that shit. But
we have no confirmation that it was pre-war though. It could have been completely manufactured by what was his name?
Stanislaus Braun or something.
Yeah, Braun.
Yeah.
it could have been completely manufactured, so we don't know that that was a true pre-war community, you know?
Well, I mean, it kind of seemed like, the idyllic community, the white picket fences, the cul-de-sac, the houses, the green grass, whatever. But yeah, I think maybe even, a prologue where you're, playing before the Great War somehow. I don't know. Maybe that'd be cool.
Okay, hear me out. Back to the Kotaku leaks. You start the damn game as the guy, a soldier or a volunteer of some form, who's going through cryogenic sleep. You experience, I don't know, not even 10 minutes of gameplay, 4 minutes tops.
Okay.
You get enough, and then they put you under, and then bam, post-apocalyptica.
Post-apocalyptica.
Not the band, obviously, but you know what I'm talking about.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so even if those Kotaku leaks are fake, I mean, the writer did a pretty good job, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's some good ideas.
I can definitely see how that would work. The thing that I really want to see touched on in the lore is more along the lines of how geography has changed. We've seen that California is relatively intact, the Mojave is intact. Even DC really, although it doesn't have any changing weather patterns to speak of, it's pretty much still the same as it was. And I want to see more of have the bombs created any volcanic activity that has created new mountain ranges? Have parts of the U.S. just been washed under? Have parts of the world just been washed under the waves as land masses shifted? How does weather work in the new world?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something you could probably only see if they went, somewhere besides the east coast of the United States, because no matter what, you're not going to see any volcanic activity on the East Coast. And you're not going to see, you won't see, huge new mountain ranges and stuff on the East Coast. But maybe on the West Coast and, by the Pacific, you could see a lot of that. I mean, Hawaii, for all we know, could just be a huge, just den of just volcanoes and shit.
Oh, man. It'd be great?
There could be hundreds of thousands of Hawaiian islands.
There could be. It'd be really great, though? A nuclear bomb hits Mount St. Helens in Washington, and then we have a game in Seattle.
But what would the bomb do to Mount St. Helens?
It would make it go off repeatedly, so we'd have all this volcanic ash, and it would be like Morrowind all over again. It'd be great.
But how would you survive?
Well, obviously the ash probably would have settled down by that time, and obviously we'd see how people would adapt to the volcanic environment.
Yeah, that'd definitely be cool.
And then you have Ash Spawn, and it would be just like...
Ash Spawn, just like Dragonborn DLC.
Just like Morrowind.
They're just going to cut and paste right into Fallout 4.
There we go. I'd be good with it.
Yeah, me too. So that was a good question. Now we're going to move on to our next one from Atlas, at Atlas Crazed on Twitter. He asked, what would you think if they had more than one currency, and those other ones would have more than one use... No, they would have more use than just gambling. Instead of NCR dollars and Legion coins only be useful at casinos. So what do you think about having more than one currency?
Well, first off, I want to say that the Legion coins and the NCR dollars did work at more than just the casinos.
Well, you could sell them.
Yeah, but that was the point. They were worth caps.
You couldn't buy anything with them, though, I guess, is what he's saying.
You could. It was still.
You could sell them for caps and then buy stuff with them.
Sort of.
Kind of in a bartering kind of way.
Yeah, but it would be interesting to see how they could do it if in one area a certain currency worked and in another area it didn't.
Yeah. Maybe they go to the Midwest and somehow the bottle caps made to the East Coast and they're fine as currency there, but in the Midwest they don't like bottle caps, so they use freaking painted rocks or some shit. I don't know, but who knows?
I think that's really just a question of how well can they pull it off within the story.
Yeah. I think bottle caps are fine, personally. I don't think we need 12 different currencies and just to get confused about them.
I agree.
Yeah. So, moving on to our last question. This one's from Rusty Randolph at Rusty Old Tunes on Twitter. I like his handle, by the way. Why doesn't anyone else make games like Bethesda? Why don't they publish more games like Fallout New Vegas? That is a very good question. Jordan, what do you think about this?
I'm going to tell you the exact reason is licensing. When it comes to especially games like New Vegas, where they had a different studio working on it, there was a huge legal issues that they ran into, and the original, like Bethesda and ZeniMax wanted one thing and Obsidian wanted another, and that would just be very, very difficult to do over and over again.
But Jordan, there's one thing that can sort out any kind of issue whatsoever, and that's money. Fallout New Vegas sold extremely well. It did pretty well by critics too. Well, well, although I remember they were 1 point away on Metacritic from getting a bonus, which left the Obsidian devs really pissed off, if I remember correctly. But I think after Fallout 4 comes out, that we'll definitely see another, licensed Fallout, either by Obsidian or someone else, maybe Telltale. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and as to the question of why does no one else produce games like Bethesda, it's because Bethesda definitely has their own style. They are the
They're
RPG
unique.
creators.
Yeah.
When it comes to Bethesda, you are talking about it's not like a tiny RPG that you might get from some of these other kinds of games like an Assassin's Creed. It's this world building experience. They don't just work with, one story. They're building a world around a set lore. And I think that's very, very hard to do within a world. And I think that you get games like the Witcher series and the Dragon Age series that do this very well as well, but they're definitely still not the mechanics that you're looking for from Bethesda.
Yeah, the other good RPG games out there, like Dragon Age, Shadow of Mordor, The Witcher. I mean, they're all good in their own right, but none of them could satisfy my quench, for another Skyrim or another Oblivion. They just don't have that same feel to them. And Fallout in particular, Fallout is so unique compared to anything else that's out there that it's just impossible to replicate it. I mean, there's no other game series that's really close to being like Fallout. There's other post-apocalyptic video games, but there's nothing like Fallout with all the vaults and all the corrupt politicians and the Great War and all the super mutants. I mean, there's nothing else like it.
Well, Fallout's like a writing playground. If almost any idea, as long as it's written correctly, well, not every idea, but a lot of crazy, weird ideas that can't make it into most games can make it into Fallout simply because it's Fallout. And if you write it well enough, the crazy kookiness of the science and the culture lends itself to being okay. So
absolutely.
I mean, you got fucking talking trees, for Christ's sake. I mean, they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that really when Bethesda says they're going to write something, they do it. It's just it just happens. They have a great team of writers. And again, the story may not be the best, but it is very, very engaging, and it all works together very, very well.
Yeah, and also what I was looking for when I was talking about why Fallout's so unique is that 50s feel. That feeling that the world just culturally stopped moving once it reached 1960. And I mean, all they have is just this 50s music playing, and it's just so cool. I can't think of any other way to describe it.
It's very Americana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also why we can't have a Fallout somewhere else in another country.
Yep, we could have DLC there, but we cannot have a full game in another country. It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. I agree. So those were all the fan questions that we picked out for this week. If your question didn't get answered, we'll answer it next week most likely. So on to our next segment. This is also a question, but I just made it a segment. What character or faction do you hope returns in Fallout 4?
Followers of the Apocalypse.
Followers of the Apocalypse.
But not the Dick Institute.
Not the Dick Institute? Is that what you just said?
Not like the Institute where it's... Because the only person that we saw from the Institute was Dr. Zimmer, and he made the Institute just seem like a bunch of assholes.
Well, they might be, though.
I know, but I don't want it.
Yeah,
I want him to be the exception.
Yeah.
That'd be nice, but then how do you create a compelling story around that? You can't have they treat the androids like shit, they need to be freed story, which is what they will most likely go for if there's a Fallout in Boston.
But again, then you come down to that whole black and white thing.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be black and white, though. There can be other things pulling you in different directions, other variables, I guess you could say. I mean, there could be, if you side with the Institute and, tracking down all these escaped androids, they could give, this super advanced tech and, whatnot. I mean, that could be an incentive, just off the top of my head.
That's not an incentive. I still feel like a dick.
Yeah, I mean, you'll still feel like a dick, but that's kind of the point. It wants you to feel like a dick.
No.
It wants you to feel evil.
No.
Because, I mean, what's the point of karma, then, if you don't feel evil?
In some ways. Again, we've talked about it before. There needs to be an update of the karma system. But we're getting off topic. We're definitely getting off topic.
Yeah, we are.
Like I said, I really want to see the Followers of the Apocalypse, but if we're having a game set in Boston, it's kind of unrealistic to have them there.
Yeah.
And, so it really comes down to where is the game going to be located, and then from there we can make predictions about what factions we're going to see.
Yeah. Well, just for conversation's sake, I'm just going to pretend that Fallout 4 is in Boston. I want to see Three Dog return because I love Three Dog. I mean, he's just... I love him.
Would you rather see the Outcasts or the Lions Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4?
That's what I was just going to say. I want to see the Outcasts because I think they're more interesting.
No, I want the Lions.
Really?
Yep.
For what reason?
I'm siding with Jordan. I want the Lions or the Lions Pride too.
Because I think that even beyond the NCR, Lions Brotherhood is what the Wasteland needs to go back to being a country.
But is it the one that it deserves?
Monte, shut up.
Batman. Marvel for life, son. First off. Second off, no, but seriously, like Lions Brotherhood, they have the right idea. Their plans are get water and food to these people. They have literally gone back to being the American military. Instead of being the Brotherhood of Steel, they're going back to being the American military, where it's a lot of men and women who work hard to provide exactly what the country needs. And not only the American military, they're also becoming the delivery service. They're becoming the police force, things like that. And I really want to see an expansion of that in Fallout 4. If it does take place in Boston, I want to see them being like almost a new NCR, but a better version of it.
But they suffer from some of the same problems of the NCR in that they're spread really thin. Although with their war with the Enclave, it's probably not going to be as bad. But after Broken Steel was added, we still have super mutants running around in the mall.
Yeah. Well, here's my argument. I think that the Lions Brotherhood should just stay in Washington and help those people there. I don't think they can run a country. The Brotherhood has never been a nation. It's just a faction. If they try to become a nation and try to start governing people, I don't think they can do that. I don't think Sarah Lyons can run like a country.
I do.
I do.
Well, obviously you do.
Excuse you.
I just don't think that they should try and become a country. I think the Outcasts, they're a lot more truer to the original Fallout lore, and I think it'd be much more interesting to see them more fleshed out.
We have talked about this before, and I'm going to make the same argument. Lyons has the right idea. He has literally traveled across the entire country, and he has seen what the Wasteland has to offer. And he has seen every single step along the way that people are screwed on their own, and they need someone out there to protect them. They need to band together to help each other. And
I agree.
Lyons work within the lore.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you that the Brotherhood, has the right ideas as far as, the people of the Wasteland go. I just think it'd be more interesting to, not see the same thing like, Brotherhood's trying to build a nation, like that we saw in, Fallout 1 and Fallout 2, where we saw, the NCR trying to build a nation. I think it'd be much more interesting to just see, different factions, to see the Brotherhood outcasts more fleshed out. Maybe they have a war with the Institute themselves if it's in Boston. They're trying to take their technology from them. I think that'd be a lot more interesting than just, the Brotherhood, we're forming a country, we're going to save these people again. It's just so beaten into the ground. It's beating a dead horse.
Well, we've thought the same thing with a lot of the other things that Bethesda's done with Skyrim and with with Fallout,
dead horses.
With Fallout 3, and they do a really good job of beating a dead horse. Yeah. They make that horse look alive again. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they turn that horse inside out.
That's the truth. And again, this comes down to how good is the writing going to be.
Yeah. So, did everyone else get their characters in that they want? We kind of got sidetracked.
I'd like to see Lee, Dr. Madison Lee.
Wait, who?
Dr. Madison Lee.
Yep.
I think.
Well, if it's in Boston, we'll probably see her for sure.
Most definitely.
Isn't that where she said she was going?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where she said she was going. Which is why I think that's them setting up for a sequel right there. Yeah. But apparently some people on Reddit don't agree with me, so...
Some people in this podcast don't agree with you. Anyway,
moving on. Moving on to our sixth...
Let Jordan finish.
Okay,
Monte,
go.
I'm going to punch you in the fucking face.
Do it.
I swear to God. All right. You know what? So I know I said I didn't want to see the Enclave, but I've kind of changed my mind, and I'd like to see the Enclave remnants.
Okay.
Flip-flopper. You're a flip-flopper.
No, there's a difference between the Enclave and the Enclave remnants. It's just like the argument between the Outcasts and the Lions Brotherhood.
Well, all that's probably left of the Enclave on the East Coast now is remnants, so we probably will see them.
Yeah. The question is, what kind of remnants are they going to be? Are they going to be the kind of remnants from New Vegas, or are they going to be, assholes still trying to uphold President Eden's plans?
Yeah. Without any, leadership anymore, at least on the East Coast, one would think that they would try and change a little bit, but... All right, we're going to move on to our second to last topic here, and that is, will Fallout 4 live up to its expectations? Because it has so much hype under it, and this game has been hyped for so long that it's just reached so unproportionate levels of hype. So do you guys think that will live up to its expectations?
Well, we have to wait. We simply don't know anything. How can we make a valid judgment based off of something that we don't even know exists, technically?
Well, that's true. But just hypothetically speaking, do you think it will live up to the hype? Do you think the wait is worth it? Is what I'm saying. Do you think it will be worth it?
I haven't seen anything. Like, it's just hard. I guess probably, but until I see some gameplay, I mean.
I'm gonna side with CJ here, but I'm also gonna add that based on how well Bethesda has done in the past, unless they completely screw something up, I can't imagine. If they pull an Assassin's Creed Unity or a Halo: The Master Chief Collection, I think that they're gonna do great.
Yeah, I mean, I think the wait will be worth it personally. I mean, I don't think it's much of a discussion. So we're just going to move on to the next topic here. And now that is, what would you want to see from another spin-off, either by Obsidian or another studio?
I think they should at least. So there's a company called In Exile Studios, which is run by Brian Fargo, who was the leader of Yeah, he was the head of Interplay during the golden years, and they recently trademarked Van Buren as a possible IP, I think it was, and everyone started speculating and saying, "Oh, what is this?" He's working on they're working on Tides of Numenera and Bard's Tale 4 right now, but I would love it if after they finish those, they could return to the isometric style of Fallout.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be great because Bethesda realizes they can't do an isometric thing.
Yeah,
that's just not their thing. So if they let Brian Fargo and Exile do it, that would please a lot of people, a lot of the old fans especially.
Because I don't know if you guys have played Wasteland 2, but Wasteland 2, it had some problems in my opinion, but I still think it's a very good isometric game.
Yeah.
And Obsidian and In Exile are very, very close in that they'll usually have people from other teams come and help other people out with their Kickstarter goals. So, or if they reach a certain goal in their Kickstarter, so they could probably get some assistance from Josh Scheuer and Chris Avallone and the people at Obsidian if they were allowed to do it in this isometric style. It would probably cause legal issues, so we'd have to wait and see there. But I think that if anyone, I would like to see an isometric Fallout game again. I think if anyone could do it, it'd be Brian Fargo's team.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, and I think a lot of people would like to see a return to some of that isometric gameplay, but I also would love to see Brian Fargo and In Exile and Obsidian and Bethesda all working together to create a spinoff where Bethesda and ZeniMax as a whole allows them to use all of the necessary copyrights and all the necessary codes that they already have from previous games and things like that, and doesn't hinder them in any way. I would love to see In Exile and Obsidian develop another of the first-person shooter style games from the point of perhaps Van Buren, or even doing something in New Orleans or Florida or a different place. And I would just love to see how they would be able to do that and put a really unique spin on it from the older Fallouts.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Miss Jordan, what do you think?
I don't know.
That's your answer.
Come back to me.
All right, we'll come back to you. Well, I think everyone wants to see, another Obsidian-made Fallout game, a sequel to New Vegas or whatever. But I'm not gonna go that route. I'm just gonna say again and reiterate, I want to see a Telltale Fallout eventually. After Fallout 4 as like a spin-off, I would love to see what Telltale could do with Fallout's lore.
No.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely buy it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not a full price game. Maybe it's just, $10 episode or whatever they charge. But I think it'd be cool to go along with Fallout 4.
I agree. But I think that Telltale Telltale for me is really hit or miss. There's some places where I like it and some places where I don't. The Wolf Among Us is great, but the Game of
Walking
Thrones...
Dead is awesome.
I haven't played The Walking Dead, but the Game of Thrones just didn't do it for me.
Yeah. I mean, Telltale is really good at tugging at the emotional strings, which is something Bethesda is really not good at. So, I mean, I just think it'd be cool.
But I don't want to get emotional over Fallout. Like, that's not something...
I get emotional over Fallout either way.
I get emotional. Sometimes.
I get emotional when Deathclaw is fucking chasing me down. I'm shitting my pants.
Dog meat dies.
Yeah, and when dog meat does. Him and his 50 health points.
Such bullshit. Okay.
I'm saying. Well, so our very last and short topic is, what will you do if Fallout 4 is not announced at E3? I personally will drop a nuke on Los Angeles and create my own Fallout 4. That's what I'll do.
I tweeted about this, and I said I was going to drink a lot.
You're going to drink a lot. Well, you're going to drink a lot anyway, aren't you?
I mean, yeah.
I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to say that they know what they're doing. They're making sure it's polished and making sure that everything's good and that it's a great game, and I think that I can wait even another year or two. I think that the prime time for them to release is definitely coming up, but if they have to wait another year or two, I will still be looking forward to the game.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that, though, Jordan, is that they're holding this huge conference. They obviously have something big that they got announced. And to hold this huge conference without at least giving an update on what BGS is working on would just be, like what the fuck?
Could be, but again, it's Bethesda, the publisher, not Bethesda Game Studios, and we could be seeing a completely new IP, which again I would be fine with because a lot of the things that they produce are very, very good. But hopefully we get something from Fallout.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and also be on the lookout for the official Bethesda E3 drinking game created by me and Jordan B. That should be fun. So, did CJ, what are you gonna do?
I don't know. Probably sleep a lot. Maybe.
Probably sleep a lot. I'll just put myself into a cryogenic slumber and just sleep forever.
I'd be too upset about it, honestly. I can almost guarantee. Well, I can't, but it's almost a guarantee that it's going to be announced at E3. But if it's not, then there's definitely a reason for it, like Jordan said. So I'm not gonna get all up in arms about it.
Yeah. I mean, I already got pretty pissed off before they didn't announce it. So if they don't announce it at E3, I'll just be like, it's not happening. I'll move on, but whatever. Anyway, that's about all the time we have for this super special Fallout 4 extravaganza. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think we got some good discussions in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And really quick, Monty, before we go, I want to remind everyone that you can hit us up on Twitter at Holotapes Weekly, and go to the description down below and take the poll. Do it right now, pretty please. It'll help us get better.
You heard the man. So yeah, peace.
Peace out, dogs.
Woohoo.
Wow.